Hello and welcome back to the 6th Street Underground podcast, the Zenless Zone Zero fan cast discussing all things ZZZ. As always, I'm your host, Eric, but I'm alone today. Brian's had some technology issues and some shipping issues that's made it really hard for him to record. So with the release of Astra Yao, I thought there was a good chance to have a conversation about how simple everything is in ZZZ. I think we tend to think of simplicity as a bad thing, right? Especially when we're talking to other people. We've got this kind of natural inclination to want to complicate things and show how like deep and nuanced and complex the things we're working on are. You see this a lot in video games. There's something about this video game mindset of complexity equals challenge. And so if something is simple, simple means easy. And I've seen that kind of lobbied at ZZZ as a whole, mostly by people who either never played the game or picked it up and put it back down. And admittedly, on the surface, it does seem a little bit, scare quotes, simple. But this is another one of those places where we start to see the fighting game roots of ZZZ show, because similarly, fighting games on the surface look simple, but anybody who's ever played one knows how infinitely complex they can be. So, we look at ZZZ and like you only have 3 characters in your team. Your actual controls are very simplified as well. You have an attack, a dodge, a special, which is complicated a little bit by having normal special and EX special, but ultimately it's one button, hit it if it's purple or hit it if it's not purple. An ultimate, and the ability to swap characters. On mobile, it always swaps in one direction, which is pretty annoying, but PC and console, you can swap in either direction, and that's it, right? And so I can understand why people might be like, hey, this game is very simple. It's easy. We saw a lot when the game first came out because story was pretty much all we had, and it was very easy. But with them continuously adding new end game content, we start to see that the game is more complex than it lets on, and that's through the interplay of the different components within the game. And I think Astra Yao just came out, and she really can exemplify this like simplicity / complexity of the game, and how the complexity of ZZZ comes from the interplay of these relatively simple components rather than being an inherently complex structure that you're playing with. So really quickly with Astra Yao, she's, man, gameplay wise and like building her, she's very simple. Build attack until you have a lot. Energy regen, cool. All your other stats don't really matter. Simple to build. Throw a support W engine on. There's different nuances there, but really most of them will do the good job because they're going to give you either attack or energy regen, right? And then when you actually use her, for the most part, you push one button and then you stop using her. You hit your skill, and as far as I can tell, apart from maybe a little bit more damage, hitting the skill or hitting the EX skill triggers the same thing. It changes her mode. She goes in the singing mode, and then you spend most of your time just switching back and forth between the other 2 characters on your team, right? Bone simple character. Some might argue boring. I'm not super keyed in to a lot of the online conversation. Just because, man, a lot of people are either really horny or really angry or both. And that's a lot to engage with. But I'm sure there are some people who are like, hey, I like this character, but she doesn't do anything. I hit one button, then I don't see her again. But having played with her a little bit, she has a very simple kit that enables very complex gameplay. And it ties into something I think Brian and I have talked about previously, where there's like, I'm sure there's better terminology out here. There's like meditative complexity and there's reactive complexity. A lot of games where you play DPS characters, and some of the DPS characters in this game are really leveraging meditative complexity, premeditated, I should really be saying. This premeditated complexity is this kit is built in a certain way, do the things just right, do a lot of damage, move on with your life. And a lot of games, especially like MMOs and stuff, really leverage this premeditated complexity. I think even characters like Ellen Joe, there's a very rigid, Zhu Yuan's a good example too. There's a very rigid like setup for how to maximize damage. Do this, do that, trigger this, unload, rinse and repeat, right? And so part of ZZZ, and a lot of people really like this, is this like the way the character is designed is inherently complex. But with a character like Astra Yao, when we start talking about reactive complexity, to me, that's all the things in the game that you can't really plan for ahead of time. That's the dodges and the parries and the quick assists and all those other reactive things we do because something else in the game has triggered your chance to react or not react, right? And usually if you don't react, you either miss out on a DPS opportunity or more likely you just take a big ol' heap and honking damage, especially if you're doing one of the many endgame modes they've released so far. And that's really where I think, for me, the game is at its most enjoyable. That's how I like most games. I like to play some of the more quote-unquote challenging games, those Soulsborne style games, Monster Hunters, things like that. And the same principle applies where, like, yes, there are things you can be doing to do a lot of damage, but you're spending most of your time reacting to what happens on the screen. And in ZZZ, because everything is relatively simple and everything is so fast-paced, reactive gameplay feels really rewarding when you nail it, right? They've put a lot of energy and love into making the parry feel good, like that hard impact and the flash and the camera moves. But all of that is to say that Astra Yao's perceived simplicity does not take into account what her ultimate does to to make more complex the actual reactive gameplay experience. Because if you don't know, or if you just started dabbling with her, when she uses her skill, she gets charges, she generates energy, and when she has charges, she can trigger a free quick assist. And that quick assist is when your other character like swings in and they do some damage, right? Usually you get like a quick assist when the enemy gets launched by an attack or something, and it's a way to swap in the next character and recover from a blunder. But now it's become like a really aggressive feature of her kit. And it's I just finished dabbling with it. It's really fast. It's not constant, but like assuming you've got some energy regen going on her, you're getting prompted to do these switches and trigger these quick assists pretty frequently. And there's a window on that quick assist, like on the screen, it's got this little aura on it. So hey, I need to trigger this. So if you're watching for it, and you probably are, you're managing your quick assist to capitalize on the amount of damage that's opening up for you, right? So now there's more reason to switch from character to character. It's helping you avoid tunnel vision of like, I'm locked into my DPS, I'm only staying on my DPS. It creates these little micro windows of action that you're trying to do. And if you pull it off perfectly, which is to say, if you're not getting hit by enemies or juggling or anything like that, it's already very satisfying and you're doing a lot of damage. But it is another thing to keep your eye on when you've got enemies swinging at you with red attacks you have to dodge and yellow attacks that you might be able to parry. And you can sometimes stack the two and get the defensive assist with the assist buff coming in from Astra Yao. But it makes combat, even when you're not playing purely defensively, it makes combat that much more hectic and, dare I say it, complex. And so I'm really relieved that she has such a simple kit, because it enables you to spend more time in this reactive flow of combat of, now I'm reacting to enemy attacks, I'm reacting to my own energy levels, right? Because I want to be switching over to use EX attacks when they're up, or ultimates when they're up, because we have the decibel changes now. But I'm also watching to try to capitalize on these Astra Yao swaps coming in. And so, like, yes, there's something to be said about, I only get to see this character maybe once a fight every now and then, unless I switch to her on purpose. But it's also really opened up this space to flip between these other two characters and to react to all these things. And it's very, very satisfying. And I think, Brian and I have talked about this over and over again. The thing about ZZZ that makes it stick for us, I mean, there's a bunch of things, but one of them is that it is very satisfying to play. And I think Astra Yao is, and I'm not just saying this because she's the new hotness and just came out. I think she really exemplifies that, like, that level of satisfaction that the game can provide. It helps that she's cool. It helps that she's the first character we've gotten. She's enabling all of these aggressive gameplay, right? We've talked about Caesar before. Caesar really enables you to ignore a lot of the reactive gameplay if you choose to, right? That's not to write off that Caesar does have her EX counter, where if you use it at the right time, you can parry and you get extra stun, and the game still rewards you for reactive gameplay when using Caesar, and we love Caesar. But that shield is beefy, and so unless you're doing some of the big end-game stuff, you can afford to miss a couple of swings, right? You can take a hit or two and not even notice it. Without Caesar on your team, if you put in like Astra Yao instead, you're being encouraged to switch around more. You've eschewed defensive options for more aggressive, more of a hyper gameplay style, which feels really good until you get pegged by an enemy attack during an off swing, and like half your health is gone. So she does add something the game has otherwise been lacking, and Astra Yao brings a team-wide heal on her ultimate. It's not like a mega heal from 0 to 100, but it is health recovery in a game that otherwise we have not seen health recovery, which, by the way, I applaud the ZZZ devs for not putting a healer in like the starting roster, because like that early in the game, we're not going to know where this is going to go, and it can be really hard to balance out a healing character when you don't know where your game is going. But that heal, it just gives you a little bit of flexibility and encourages the switch back to Astra Yao. Made even better by the fact that when you use her ultimate, the free quick assist that you were getting, you get 2 free chain attacks instead, I believe. And it's really cool. It's really satisfying to get that to pop off. But like to bring it back to my original point, it's really interesting to see how, with multiple characters now, the team with ZZZ have really looked at how they can make gameplay feel complex and rewarding without overburdening kits. Now I know I'm sure there are people who are going to argue and pull up characters who have these really long lists of things in their kits, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. Usually when we get these complex kits, it's not because the kit itself is incredibly complex, but because the methodology for writing these things out, where nothing can just be called something simple. It's this like super long name for the thing, and you're referencing all these different names and states. It takes something that could be, when she's using her song, does this, and becomes like this 2-paragraph long thing. But if we streamline them down, they're usually not too complex. But like, I just, I had a couple of minutes here. Brian's not here. I just wanted to celebrate that, like, I'm glad teams only take 3 characters. I like that whenever I'm on any one character, I can swap in either direction to get to the whole team, so everyone feels involved. I like that there's not tons of different extra buttons. Most characters don't have combos. I am sure we're going to get to some kind of combo-related character at some point, but it really is just like, the team is finding ways to capitalize on simplicity. And I think that leaning towards simplicity is what enables the opportunities for creativity, right? If we think that creativity's best friend is restriction, is limitation, right? Because when we have limits on the thing, then we have to be more creative in ways that we access that thing. And so the team with ZZZ, they've got these strict limits. There's 3 people on the team. There's only an attack and a skill. There's an ultimate. But flexing within those limitations is where they come up with more creative items. And it also makes, when we do break those rules, it feels more impactful, right? Astra Yao is a great example. She's come in and created a new way for us to access quick assists, which previously we didn't really have a go-to way to access those in that way. And that empowers not only her to be a new character, but these characters who have really dope or really like impactful quick assists, now they have more of a space to shine because of this simple addition. I don't know, guys. I just think it's really cool. We're going to do a short episode today, obviously. So I'm just going to go ahead and start wrapping it up here, but I'd love to hear other people's thoughts about the design's emphasis on simplicity, or Astra Yao in general. Some quick housekeeping things, just so people aren't surprised. We may be changing the intro and outro themes for our podcast, just so that we're not stepping on any toes and using Mihaly's music, because clearly I didn't make that music. If you want to contact us, you can reach us at 6thstreetunderground@gmail.com. I'm also in the process of figuring out how to set up a Discord and maybe get us on Blue Sky or something, just so that we do have a way of like engaging with a community. So keep an eye out for that. We'll put them in the show notes when we get the chance, what have you. Other reminders, real quick, y'all. If you didn't notice during the most recent live stream for 1.5, we're getting this arcade event. And one of the arcade events things is that there's tokens you can unlock, and that's going to let you get like currency and rewards and things. They announced that there's a limit to how many tokens you can acquire per day. So do not save that for the last day. Like, when that event starts, go ahead and start chipping away. Get your dailies done early instead of saving it, or you're going to be in that place where you're like, the FOMO starts kicking in and you're getting upset because you're going to miss out on things. Usually not permanent things. You're not going to miss a skin or anything, but if we're trying to maximize our resources, don't miss out. Otherwise, folks, look for our next episode. We're probably going to be coming out, probably on the 6th, it looks like, is going to be our next episode if everything goes well. Hopefully by then, Brian has his computer back, or not his computer, but his technology worked back out again. If you have ideas for things you want us to talk about during our show, please also send us a message. Let us know. And lastly, again, we don't really have a way of advertising. So your word of mouth is a huge boon. If you want to talk about us in your different online communities, tell your friends, try to suggest us to other people. If you're enjoying what we're doing, of course, and feel free to leave comments, reviews, etc. on your podcatchers. That really does help. But we're trying to create a show here that celebrates all the great things within our game and our community, without introducing any toxicity or making it a hostile environment to people. And hopefully that's something that vibes with y'all. But I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you so much for listening in. We will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.